In today's episode of Exploring the Unexpected, we roll out of Minnesota on our way to the Keweenaw Peninsula in Michigan. Get ready to explore cool lighthouses and beautiful churches. Wander 2,000 feet into the earth and clumsily stumble into a landlocked boat. After a great night of sleep in the dispersed camping near Castle Danger, I headed down to Duluth, Minnesota. I got some errands done and decided what I really wanted to do was check out this really long island and see what I could see. So I headed across this rather cool bridge and found myself, well, honestly, to be a little bit on the disappointed side. The road on this island goes smack dab right down the middle of houses and businesses, and you can't see anything but the houses and businesses, so it pretty much felt like I was just driving through some neighborhood. Eventually I came to a park where I was able to get out and get up onto the water. Unfortunately, it was really just kind of looking across toward a rather industrial part of Wisconsin. As much as I wanted to stick around and check out Duluth, I was a little bit nervous about whether or not I would be able to get an RV spot for the night out on the dock. So I decided, instead of waiting until the afternoon to find out if I would get a spot, I would go ahead and start pressing eastward and head into Wisconsin. A couple of hours later, I arrived in Ashland, Wisconsin, and was really happy when I showed up at the Cahir RV Park right on the shores of Lake Superior and got the very last available spot. While I didn't get a spot right on the water, I was very close and was able to go wander around and take some pictures and videos. As I was wandering, I looked across the water and saw a flag flying and found that that's the Ashland Ore Dock, so I had to head over there and check it out. Well, there's nothing going on here with the Ashland Ore Dock. Right next door, the United States Geological Service has a couple of boats docked at their dock. The KIA conducts biological research for the United States Geological Service and can go out to sea for 14 days with 9 people. So I'm heading out to the end of the Ashland Ore Docks. And honestly, I have no idea what or how any of this is or how it was used. After a couple of productive days of working and doing a little relaxing on the shores of Lake Superior, I rolled out of the RV park to spend a couple of hours exploring Ashland before hitting the road. Right near the RV park sits the Lady of the Lake Catholic Church. Built in 1887 using locally sourced brownstone, it's a stunning example of Gothic Revival architecture. The Gothic style is carried to the interior almost perfectly, and I was really kind of unhappy that it was such a cloudy day because I really would have liked to see what this church would have looked like with some bright sunlight shining through these gorgeous stained glass windows. When I looked to the back of the church, the beautiful organ caught my attention, and I was really happy to see that the staircase was open so I could go check it out. This spectacular organ was built by William Schulke, a Prussian immigrant who came to the United States in 1874. Sadly, only a few of his gorgeous organs, including this one, remain entirely intact. I definitely want to come back to Ashland someday to do some more exploring. The town is filled with colorful murals that celebrate the area's history, and I would love to walk around with a bit of sunshine rather than this pouring rain. One of these murals answered one of my questions. This is the Ashland Ore Dock that I walked out on, and as you can see, there was a whole lot more there years and years ago. I was just looking at the very base of the ore dock, not all of the additional structure that was on top of it. As I drove out of Ashland, I was a little bit bummed. I love poking around and exploring places like this. But as I've made my plans for the next couple of months, I realize that I'm going to need to be a bit choosy about where I spend my time. I'm planning to make it all the way into New England and then back to Colorado by Thanksgiving. Fortunately, this adventure that I'm on may last for decades, so I'm marking places that I want to visit again and explore in more depth. Ashland is definitely on that list. Even though my time was a little tight, I knew that I absolutely had to spend a few days wandering and exploring the Keweenaw Peninsula. I decided that my first stop would be the Lighthouse in Ontonagon. Well, this shouldn't be too hard to find. There's the sign. Let's go see if we can find it. Hold on, what? Okay, I'm supposed to turn here. Okay, here we go. This seems like a really strange way to get somewhere. Maybe I'm not going in the right direction. Oh, hang on, here's another sign. Okay, and now we go through the fence, I guess, here. All right, we finally made it to the lighthouse. This lighthouse was built in 1866, replacing the one built in the 1850s. The light tower is 39 feet from the ground to the focal plane, or where the light beamed out into the lake. The building is 3 stories tall. The first floor is a kitchen and storage, and we're on our way to the second floor to explore the living quarters of the lighthouse. Here's a nice sitting room with a wood-burning stove to keep you warm while you sit around and converse. Okay, we've got to go take a look at this cool old organ. That is really awesome. And here's a bedroom for children or guests who have come to visit the lighthouse. Cool phone, but whoops, I think I missed the office. Let's go back and check that out. This is where the lightkeeper would keep the logs of everything that happened and do whatever business he needed to do. Okay, let's head on up to the 3rd story and check it out now. There are a couple of bedrooms here with single beds for either children or for guests who came to visit the lighthouse. And of course, there needs to be a master bedroom for the lighthouse keeper and his spouse. Oh, cool old treadle sewing machine. Okay, now it's time to head up into the light tower. When the lighthouse was active, it sat right on the shores of Lake Superior. But today, because of sediment from the Ontonagon River and dredging activity, the lighthouse now sits quite a ways back from the lake. You know I'm gonna have to go check out these boats that are sitting around the lighthouse. And look, this one actually has some stairs we can go up. Don't worry, I was fine. I just stumbled a little bit and was kind of hoping nobody saw me. Yemeni Christmas. I'm not sure I'd really want to head out onto the water on this boat. At least not in the shape that it currently is in. I decided I wanted to head to the beach, but on my way there I got distracted when I saw this really cool old courthouse. Unfortunately, I couldn't get inside, but that didn't stop me from wandering around and just checking it out. Considering some of the items sitting around the courthouse, I'm guessing that the courthouse is now probably privately owned. Before anyone could come ask me what I was doing on private property, I hopped back in my Jeep and headed through the neighborhood on my way to the Lakeshore Park. While the weather wasn't too promising, I still wanted to head down to the water and walk along the beach. Of course, I'll probably leave my shoes on and not necessarily go walking barefoot on the beach. Wow, it's pretty amazing to me looking out into Lake Superior. I'm used to the little lakes in Kansas and Colorado that, well, you can see the other side, but that's just not the case here. I was really happy I found a free spot to camp at Pernod Lake Campground. So I headed partway up the Keweenaw Peninsula, managed to miss the turn, turned around, and found the unmarked road, and then headed into this absolutely lush, beautiful landscape. I wasn't really sure what to expect when I got to the campground itself. It'd been raining a whole bunch during the day, and I was afraid that I'd be pulling into some really muddy, nasty type of spot. This first spot certainly had me a little concerned with all the standing water, but now I can see the lake in the distance, and boy, I hope I can find a spot for me to camp at, because it looks like there's a number of people here. I drove around for a little while and eventually managed to wedge myself right into that cluster of trees in the middle of the screen. Well, it wasn't the most perfect camping spot, but I only needed it for one night. However, I did have one rather significant challenge. This may be the most jacked up I've ever had the trailer for both the wheel and the jack up front. But considering how close I am to the lake and that this seemed like about the last spot left, can't be too upset. Here's a quick tour of the lake. After a good night of sleep during a wonderful rainstorm and a productive morning working, I'm ready to take off now and go stick my head in a hole in the ground. And this is the specific hole I'll be heading into very soon. I headed further north on the Keweenaw Peninsula and had a reservation at the Quincy Mine. This historic copper mining site played a pivotal role in the development of the Keweenaw Peninsula during the copper mining boom of the 19th and early 20th centuries. It's part of the Keweenaw National Historic Park, a network of historic sites and landscapes, including remnants of mines, mills, worker housing, and town centers. This National Historic Park operates as a partnership between the National Park Service and numerous local organizations, known as Keweenaw Heritage Sites. They contribute unique resources and manage multiple museums and other historic sites in the area. The Quincy Mine was known as Old Reliable and operated from 1846 to 1945 and was renowned for its consistent profitability and high-quality copper ore. I booked a tour to learn more about the world's largest steam-powered hoist and to head over 2,000 feet into the earth inside the Quincy Mine. The tour started in the hoist house, which houses the world's most powerful steam hoist ever built. Cables were wrapped around this 60-foot drum and ran outside to the number 2 shaft rock house, where miners, equipment, and ore would be let down and brought back up a shaft that eventually reached 9,260 feet, or 2,823 meters, into the earth at a precise 55-degree angle. Today, everything under the 7th level of the mine is filled with water and inaccessible. A horizontal shaft has been drilled at the 7th level, and that's where we're headed. And how cool is this? We're going to be taking a cog railroad down to the mine entrance. Our tour guide reviewed the safety information again, and we began the trek into the 7th level of the Quincy Mine. Eventually, we would walk 2,000 feet into the belly of the earth. Our tour guide explained much of the equipment in the mine and the history of mining in the area, and did a spectacular job of explaining the value of copper to the Industrial Revolution in the United States. It was used to produce electrical wiring, machinery, and other industrial equipment as the nation electrified and modernized. And of course, the U.S. Mint used it in currency production. One of the surprising things in the mine was a former classroom of Michigan Tech. They would hold classes down here for mining engineers, and a significant portion of the horizontal shaft that we walked was created by the students. After coming out of the hole in the ground and getting back into the sunshine, it was time to do a bit more exploring. And you know me, if there's trains, I'm going to be snapping some pictures. But I guarantee I don't want to go for a ride on these tracks. There are also some ruins of buildings on the grounds that obviously we needed to go and spend a little time checking out. I always experience a bit of emotional dissonance when I wander around ruins. On one hand, it's sad to see what is lost, but on the other, it's hopeful in witnessing the resilience of nature as it reclaims the abandoned spaces. Plus, there's just a sense of beauty and melancholy that is really hard to put into words. Oh, look, here's another shaft. Let's go take a look. I don't know where it goes, and I won't be finding out today. With only one more night to spend on the Keweenaw Peninsula, I decided I would head all the way up to the top to Copper Harbor. I snagged an excellent and secluded campsite at the Trail's End campground, unhooked the trailer, and headed out to grab some grub, wander around, and spend a little time on the shore of Lake Superior. The Brickside Brewery caught my attention, and the roaming pallet food truck in the parking lot sealed the deal. I headed into the brewery and ordered a local brew, which I then took outside to the covered area next to the food truck to see what type of meals they offered. Would you be surprised to know that I ordered tacos? Okay, I'm about to try the Korean pulled pork barbecue tacos with cucumber kimchi from the Roaming Pallet, which is right next door to the Brickside Brewery in Coppers Bay, Michigan, right up at the tip of the Upper Peninsula. All right, here we go. That's unexpectedly interesting. It's the pork is really, really mild. It's got noodles in it, crunchy noodles. And it's really not near as spicy as I thought it might be. Overall, I'd say this is pretty dang good. Nice surprise to find all the way up the tip of Michigan. The tacos had the slightest bit of zing on the backside. Wasn't very much, but like I really needed an excuse to have a beer to wash these down. So this is the Summer Wit from Brickside Brewery, and it is actually very tasty. An unfiltered wheat, got a little bit of, it's just a hint of cinnamon in there, and definitely some orange. Perfect summer beer. With a full belly, I definitely needed to walk around a little bit, and I found this memorial park. So let's go check it out. This is really cool, but I think I want to head out of town and find someplace where it's just right on the water, just in nature with no signs of humans. After an hour or so of just sitting and enjoying the spectacular shoreline and listening to the waves pound against the rocks, it was time to head back to the Trails End campground, rehook the trailer, and get ready for tomorrow. Today was a really cool day getting to check out that mine and heading 1,000 feet into the rock. I'm really glad that I got an opportunity to do that, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow when I'm going to head out and hit a couple more of the historic sites in the area. I awoke to an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful sunny day and headed out of the campsite, watching carefully and hopefully for another black bear sighting. The evening before, a black bear had bounded through the campground, and I was hoping for another look at one of these beautiful animals. Unfortunately, I didn't see any more black bears during my entire time on the Keweenaw Peninsula. I was kind of bummed that the one that I did get to see was while I was walking around and unusually did not have my phone or a camera in my hand. I have to admit, I was really excited about the drive to Eagle Harbor, where I would be visiting the Eagle Harbor Lighthouse. The drive would take me right along the northern edge of the Keweenaw, along the shore of Lake Superior. Plus, it looked like it was going to be a fun drive. Okay, I may not be driving a zippy little sports car. I'm in a low-geared Jeep Wrangler, towing a trailer that's about the maximum amount the vehicle can handle. But that certainly doesn't mean that I don't love finding a curvy, twisty road to drive down. Especially one that has almost no traffic on it and is in a magnificently gorgeous forest running right along the lake shore. That drive was an absolute enjoyable blast. And eventually I did make my way into Eagle Harbor, where I was really hoping that it wouldn't be too hard to find the lighthouse, or that the lighthouse wouldn't be sitting in some really weird place where you had to go wandering all about like it had in Ontonagon. Fortunately, as I rolled into town, there was some great signage. Eagle Harbor just looks like an adorable little town, but I'll tell you, sitting right here on the shores of Lake Superior, it's got to be pretty brutal in the wintertime. And here's another sign. It's telling me that I need to turn right at this intersection. Okay, well, I don't think it's going to be too much further away. It's a little bit nervous rolling into a neighborhood because we may roll into the neighborhood and then through the neighborhood and then who knows where. But as I come up the top of this hill, I can see the entrance to the lighthouse. There's a little Keweenaw History Museum right there to the left. And right there in front of us is a little kiosk with a bicycle sitting outside of it. That's their welcome center. It's where you go get your tickets or whatnot to go check out the lighthouse. And check this out. That right there, the big black thing, that's a snow roller. It made it much easier before cars to pack the snow down so your horse-drawn sleigh would glide smoothly down the street. Even though I arrived after the published time that the lighthouse would be opened, it was still locked, so I headed toward the water. Oh, sweet! These lighthouses are built because of the cargo ships that move across Lake Superior, and there's one right there. I continued wandering around the shoreline waiting for the lighthouse to open, but of course I entertained myself by taking some videos and snapping pictures. Still unable to find anyone or access the lighthouse, I discovered that one of the other buildings on the property was open and I headed in to check it out. It contained many interesting items about the lighthouse, about Lake Superior, and the stories surrounding the people and businesses that made their living on and around this massive body of water, and appeared to hold a significant amount of historical documents for researchers. The museum near the entrance magically appeared unlocked and held more interesting artifacts and one of the 248 Chrysler automobiles that sunk on the City of Bangor ship in 1929. I knew if I waited around long enough, the lighthouse would eventually be opened, and it was. And wow, it was so well done. The Historical Society had taken great detail to find all kinds of period artifacts for every room in the house. And they had meticulously documented practically every piece that sat anywhere in the home. I always get stuck thinking about ships and the challenges at sea whenever I think about lighthouses. But of course, the lighthouse keeper kept the light burning and led as normal a life as you could in what was often a very isolated location. For many keepers, the lighthouse was a family home and functioned just like any other home you might visit in any urban setting. I can totally see one of the lighthouse keeper's kids curled up on the couch reading a book while covered in this patchwork quilt. Unfortunately, you're not able to go to the top room in this lighthouse, where the light is housed. However, they have the 4th order Fresnel lens on display that they used in this lighthouse. These engineering marvels shot light far out to sea and have been called the invention that saved a million ships. While you can't go to the very top of the lighthouse, you can go to the 2nd story, which was the living quarters for the lighthouse keeper and his family. Unfortunately, the rooms were barricaded off and you could only view the contents through plexiglass, which, of course, is a bit reflective and makes it a bit harder to see what was in each of the rooms. So I did what I could to try to get a little bit better video of the items in the room. I really wish that these barricades weren't necessary so that we could actually look at everything in more detail, but it is what it is. A little way down the highway, as I continued my trek, a couple of gold domes caught my eye. The Holy Protection Ukrainian Catholic Monastery wasn't allowing visitors and had some construction underway. So I walked around outside, snapped a few pictures, and got a good chuckle from the monks' front porch statues. Reluctantly, it was time to leave the Keweenaw Peninsula and to start making some progress eastward. I targeted a campground in Marquette, Michigan, but on the way I did make 2 quick stops, one in Calumet and one in Lance, Michigan. I made a quick stop in the Keweenaw National Historic Park Visitor Center and looked around town for just a few minutes, knowing I would be back to explore in more depth in the future. The sun glinting off the copper steeple of the Sacred Heart of Jesus Catholic Church in Lance, Michigan caught my eye, and when I saw the stonework, I decided to pull over and look at this church in more detail. They've made some additions to the church since it was built in 1925, and I was rather impressed that they left the exterior facade in place rather than covering it. That's definitely a more modern door, but I love that they left the stained glass. I stepped inside to shoot a quick video of the beautiful interior and more of those awesome stained glass windows, and then quietly slipped out, leaving the parishioners to pray in peace. I could have easily spent a week on the Upper Peninsula. It is an absolutely gorgeous place, and the amount of historical sites and history in the area is amazing. I do believe I will be heading back there before too much longer. Right now, I'm in the tourist campground in Marquette, Michigan. I need to get further east, drop a little bit south, and then keep going east. I've committed to be in Peekskill, New York in just about a week, and I don't have a whole lot of time to get there, so I've got to get on the road and get moving. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Exploring the Unexpected, where we discover whimsical, wacky, and quirky metal sculptures in the middle of the forest. Visit the River Raisin National Historic Battle Site. Check out the National Museum of the Great Lakes and explore one of the massive cargo ships that sailed those American Great Lakes.